Good morning. I'm going to be reading from 1 Corinthians chapter 10 this morning. The reason I chose this passage for today was because my thoughts had been directed to this passage based on some conversations I've had in the last few days and some of the things I was thinking about this morning. But just for clarification purposes, to introduce this passage and the subject, in the last 24 hours I've been invited to go out for drinks with a friend. I have walked outside of where I was at and spoke with another friend while he smoked a cigarette, and was joined by another friend which came out to smoke a cigarette. And I've also thought to myself as I drank yet another Coca-Cola, gee, I should probably drink less of these. They're probably not very good for me, and I probably need to lose some weight. So as I thought about that, my thoughts kind of directed to some questions that seem to be brought up quite frequently in conversations. Questions like this: should Christians drink? Should Christians smoke? Is there anything wrong with getting a tattoo? Can a Christian have their ears pierced? That's in reference to guys, not girls. Although my wife would tell you that not even girls should get their ears pierced. Can Christians? And the question comes up, and there's dozens of different topics. And it's a legitimate question. It's a question that goes to the heart of Christianity and whether or not we should do certain things. And it's obvious that there are many things that Christians should not do. And on the opposite, on the positive end, there are many things that Christians should do. So I want to concentrate on this topic for a few minutes. Should Christians drink? Should they smoke? Should they do this? Should they do that? And so if you'll read with me out of 1 Corinthians chapter 10, I'm going to be reading verses 23 through the end of the chapter. It says this: all things are lawful, but not all things are helpful. All things are lawful, but not all things build up. Let no one seek his own good, but the good of his neighbor. Eat whatever is sold in the meat market without raising any question on the ground of conscience. For the earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof. If one of the unbelievers invites you to dinner, and you are disposed to go, eat whatever is set before you without raising any question on the ground of conscience. But if someone says to you, this has been offered in sacrifice, then do not eat it, for the sake of the one who informed you, and for the sake of conscience. I do not mean your conscience, but his. For why should my liberty be determined by someone else's conscience? If I partake with thankfulness, why am I denounced because of that for which I gave thanks? So whether you eat or drink, or whatever you do, do all to the glory of God. Give no offense to the Jews, or to the Greeks, or to the church of God, just as I try to please everyone in everything I do, not seeking mine own advantage, but that of many, that they may be saved. Be imitators of me, as I am of Christ. Should a Christian drink? Should a Christian smoke? Those are the more popular questions. You know, it's interesting. There was a day in which Christians, just like non-Christians, drank maybe as much and consumed and used alcohol as much on a daily basis as anyone else did. There was also a day in which Christians probably smoked their cigar, their pipe, or even a cigarette just as much as anyone else did. And it's interesting, if we look back through history, that as time began to progress and as we began to progress with medicine and science, and we were able to see the connection with things like alcohol abuse and the damage it does to the liver and other parts of the body, as we began to see the damage that smoking can cause to the lungs or to the throat or to the mouth, and things like chewing tobacco or whatever it is, it became more and more taboo for Christians to partake in certain things like drinking a beer with their friends, or having a glass of wine at a meal, or having a cigar at the end of the day, or even smoking a cigarette throughout your day. And those questions have come up. Should we do those things? Are they sinful? Are they wrong? Are they good? And there's nothing wrong with those questions. There's nothing wrong with debating and talking about these issues as long as we do it in a biblical way, and as long as we're always loving towards those who disagree with us. And so I want to talk about those things for a few minutes, but I also want to bring up a couple other things that don't seem to be quite so taboo, but maybe they should. You know, is there anything wrong with drinking a Coca-Cola? Well, sure there's not. There can't be anything wrong with drinking a Coke. I mean, after all, why could the most delicious beverage on the planet be considered sinful? There's nothing wrong with drinking a Coke. You're not going to go get in a car accident because you had a little bit too much to drink. You're not going to maybe have a bad testimony because you go out to lunch and you order a Coke and they see you over at the other table, that guy's a pastor, he's drinking a Coke. But what if that Coke leads to 2 Cokes, leads to 4 Cokes, leads to 8 to 12, and not only am I consuming too many Cokes, or maybe becoming a little bit too addicted to Coca-Cola, but I'm also damaging my body. I could be damaging my teeth by the amount of sugar that I'm taking in. I could be damaging my body because Cokes are leading to me becoming overweight and possibly even obese. And we can leave the realm of something silly like a Coca-Cola and move very easily into food. The amount of food I eat, the kinds of foods I eat, are they helping my body? Are they hurting my body? Is chocolate sinful? Is candy sinful? Is cheesecake sinful? I mean, we can go follow that same line of thinking to the ridiculous and to the obscene. Is there anything wrong with the tattoo? The ink's damaging your skin. It's permanent. We can answer the foolish questions all day long. Or we can look to the scriptures to see what they say, and we can look at our own motives. We can look at our own thoughts and our own desires and really try and determine and judge ourselves. Why are we doing the things we're doing? Can drinking alcohol be sinful? Yes, it can. We are absolutely, completely forbidden to become drunk. Drunkenness is a severe problem. Drunkenness is very harmful, not only to your own body, but also to others. We shouldn't do it. Should you be addicted to cigarettes or cigars or pipes because they can cause cancer and other health risks? No, you shouldn't. Is it sinful to smoke one? Is it sinful to drink 1 cup, have 1 beer, 1 glass of wine? I don't think those are the issues. Number 1, are you harming or hurting your testimony? Are you harming or hurting the conscience of someone else? Are you harming or hurting your body? Those are good questions to ask. 2, even if you're not harming or hurting yourself or someone else, someone's conscience or your testimony, are you doing it for the glory of God? You see, Paul lived in a day in which the issue was whether or not they should eat meat, which was sacrificed to idols and then sold in the market. Is there anything wrong with the meat? Is there something sinful about the meat? Of course not. Eat the meat. The issue was not the meat, but the issue was someone else's conscience and testimony and the opportunity to use your testimony and the testimony of God to have an opportunity to share the Word of God with someone and they be saved. The issue today is not whether or not the wine is sinful or the tobacco is sinful. Are you a stumbling block to yourself and to others? Are you glorifying God by your actions? If you're not a stumbling block and you are indeed glorifying God, then yes, it's lawful for you to have a glass of wine or to enjoy a beer. It's lawful for you to go and get a tattoo. It's lawful for you to put a hole in your ear, whether you're a man or a woman. All things are lawful, but not everything is helpful. Not everything, as Paul said, builds up. The issue is whether or not what you're doing honors and glorifies God and builds others up. He said in verse 24, "Let no one seek his own good, but the good of his neighbor." Look for the good of your neighbors, your friends, people who go to school with you, people who you work with, people who you go to church with. Look for their good, not just your freedom. And if you're the person who looks on others in a judgmental way because they maybe drink or smoke or do this or that you don't approve of, how's your life? How are the things that you're addicted to? What are you enslaved to? Because each one of us battles different things. We're all enslaved or battling certain kinds of sins in our lives. And before you judge someone else, judge your own conscience. Why should your conscience determine someone else's liberties? And why should theirs determine yours? They shouldn't. My conscience, my freedom should be determined by how it allows me to both honor God with my life and build others up. So whether I eat a Twinkie or drink a beer, it should be for the glory of God. And I shouldn't do it because I can enjoy the freedom. I should do it because I can enjoy the freedom and help use it to build someone else up. What are you doing and why are you doing it? Whether you eat or drink, whatever you do all for the glory of God. Martin Luther said, "Men can be addicted to both wine and women. Should we abolish women? The sun, the moon, and the stars have all been worshipped. Should we pluck them out of the sky? No, we shouldn't. But trying to eliminate the object of what is abused is never going to get rid of abuse. We need to be good stewards of our bodies, good stewards of our time, good stewards of the resources and the blessings that God has given us. And though everything is lawful, not everything is good. But whatever we do, do all of it for the honor and glory of God.